honestly, I feel like this book cursed my reading year. Hi everyone, my name is Julia. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I'm so glad you're here. Wow, I have not said that phrase in the context of a booktube video in so long. I am so sorry. Honestly, I just keep saying sorry now at this point. But again, no excuse other than the fact that 2022 has been a pretty crazy year. I think I underestimated how much change would occur in my life. I'm really sorry for being MIA the past year, but thank you so much for sticking around and for being here for today's video. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in 2022. That's right, I am going to be talking about every single book that I read. It's not what I usually do. I usually do like a best of video. That's what I've been doing the past 2 years. But the reason why I won't be doing that this time around is because I did not reach my Goodreads goal for 2022. I set a reading goal of 32 books. Yep, pretty ambitious, I'm not gonna lie. I read 30 books in 2021, 26 in 2020, and I thought I was gonna read 32 books in 2022, but unfortunately I didn't. And actually that's something that I've been trying to make peace with, especially given the fact that I made reading my entire personality. I have this booktube channel. I regularly post about what I read on my Instagram, and while I still love reading, 2022 was so impactful and just so eventful that unfortunately reading took a backseat, if I'm being completely honest. And I felt pretty burnt out, not just from reading but from everything that occurred in my life in 2022. I'm okay. I just want to let you know, I want to assure you, I am perfectly fine. If you're like me and you didn't reach your Goodreads goal for 2022, I just want to assure you that it's totally okay. I am a firm believer in the fact that reading should be fun, and it's something that you should actively choose to do. You shouldn't be forced to do it. You shouldn't be pressured by anyone, anything, any number, any goal. I mean, it's great to have a goal. I think it's amazing to have something to work towards. But if you're just not feeling it, I highly suggest that you don't push it. Just, embrace reading for what it is. It's supposed to be a fun act. And yeah, that's also something that I tell myself to help me sleep at night. Another thing that I'd like to announce before I talk about the books that I read in 2022 is something very special, and I don't think I announced it here officially, though I did mention it on my Instagram. So if you want to follow me, I'll leave my links down below for you to check out. I am happy to announce that I am a fully booked reading ally. Oh my gosh, I still cannot believe that that's a thing, and I am part of their Reading Allies program. I have been working with them for the past couple of months, creating content for them and all of that, and I am so incredibly happy and excited about this opportunity. If you've been following me and if you've been following this channel, you would know I'd always make that joke that if Fully Booked wanted to sponsor me, my email is down below. So it's still mind-blowing to me that I am working with them and that I'm partnered with them. So what does it mean to be a reading ally? I'll be leaving links to the books that I'll be talking about in the description box down below. So if you use that link and check out the book on fullybookedonline.com, or use that link to purchase any book on Fully Booked Online, I will be getting a very small portion of the sales from your purchase. So let's say, for example, you click on the link down below and either you purchase the book that it's linked to, or you purchase any other book on Fully Booked Online, as long as you use my link as an entryway to Fully Booked. I believe that's how it works. I will be getting a small portion of the sales from that purchase. But I want to let you know that me taking that really tiny portion of sales does not affect your purchase in any way. It doesn't increase the price of your product. It doesn't decrease the price of your product. It stays the same. I just get a very tiny portion. I just want to let you guys know so that you're fully aware. So if you'll be using any of my links down below to purchase a book from fullybookedonline.com, I just want to say thank you so much. And I also want to say thank you to every single person that has watched my videos. If you've ever read a book because of my recommendations, thank you so much. I don't think I'd be here without you guys. I don't think I'd be partnered with Fully Booked if it weren't for you guys. So thank you so much. It means the world. And I am so excited to be making more content. As you can see, I'm in a new place. I have a different background now, and I'm so excited to create more content and just read more. I really want to get back into the swing of reading this year. I feel like that was something that really took a back seat in 2022, but I am more motivated to make content and to share my love of reading with you guys. So yeah, I feel like those are all the announcements that I wanted to make. So without further ado, let's talk about the books that I read in 2022. Alright, so I read 13 books in 2022. I know, shocking. This is probably the least number of books I've read in a year in a long time. Like since college. You know, college I didn't really read for fun. Alright, so starting off with the first book that I read in 2022, honestly, and I'm really sorry if you like this book, I did not like it at all. I have some beef with this book because I love the author so much. I loved her first book, the book that came before this one. I also liked the book that came after this one. And this book was hyped up everywhere. I feel like everyone and their moms were talking about how much they love this book. This was like a book talk recommendation, and that is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Unfortunately, I did not like this book, and I'll tell you why. Again, if you like this book, so sorry. But for me, it was too redundant. It was too draggy and a bit too slow for my taste. So this one is a best friends to strangers to acquaintances to lovers. And I don't know, like, it just wasn't the book for me. I feel like a movie adaptation, which I think is in the works, will do this plot a lot more justice. I feel like I should have liked this. It's opposites attract, which I usually gravitate towards. Granted, the Friends to Lovers isn't my favorite. If you read People We Meet on Vacation and you genuinely liked it, let me know. I'm super open to discourse. Let's talk about it. 10 summer trips to like keep flashing back towards. Not it. No, we could have like kept it to 5. We could have kept it to like 5 summer trips in detail. But no, these were like 10 summer trips in detail. Like, the chapters were so long and it was the same formula. I'm sorry, I feel like I spent so much time talking about this book. I just really didn't like it, but I still wanted to talk about it. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, my first book of 2022. So the second book that I read in 2022 was Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This was actually gifted to me by Fifi, aka Isla Girl here on YouTube. I'll be sure to link her down below and you guys can check her out. She also made a video, like a full comprehensive video on the Lunar Chronicles. So be sure to check that out. But yeah, if you guys aren't familiar with the Lunar Chronicles, they're actually a modern day retelling of famous, well-loved fairy tales. And if it wasn't already obvious, Cinder is a retelling of Cinderella. And this book is actually set in New Beijing or fictional China. And it talks about the coexistence of humans and cyborgs. So Cinder, our main girl, is actually a gifted mechanic and cyborg. We follow Cinder and like her musings around the kingdom, around the city, and we find out that she actually has a pretty mysterious past. I remember really enjoying this book, and if it weren't for the fact that I could not for the life of me get my hands on a copy of the second book, then I would have definitely continued on with the Lunar Chronicles. If you guys are into modern day retellings, I'm pretty sure everyone and their moms have already read this series, and I'm like literally the last person on earth. But if you've read the Lunar Chronicles and you highly recommend it, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to learn more about the Lunar Chronicles without spoiling, of course. That was the second book that I read in 2022. Definitely enjoyed it, but it was cut short by the fact that I could not get my hands on a copy of the second book. So the next book that I read in 2023, I am so happy about. I love this author so much, and she deserves all the recognition that she's currently getting. This book blew up to the point that they had to stop making this specific copy, the one that I have here in my hands. And that book is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I love Olivia Blake so much. I'm actually currently rereading a Hermione fanfic of hers that I absolutely love. Sorry, don't come for me if you are not a Hermione fan. I am one, and so is Olivia Blake, so sorry. Anyway, this book is a love story. And I think it's a very realistic depiction of love. It is not your typical butterflies and hearts and rainbows, not that type of romance. It's a real love story. And it actually reminds me a lot of Normal People, which, if I'm being completely honest, not my favorite book, but I feel like this does a better job. Sorry, Sally Rooney. Sorry, cool girls everywhere. I'm surprised that I liked this book as much as I did, and I really feel like it's because of the writing and how Olivia is just so talented. And if I may share, there is one line in this book that actually links to the fanfic that I'm currently rereading, and the moment I spotted it, I grabbed my pencil and I like underlined it, and I actually took a photo of it and I sent it to Olivia on Instagram DM, and she replied and she said that I was the first person to ever catch it, and I am so extremely flattered. When I tell you I was screaming in my room, I am not kidding. I was extremely flattered and just like to this day, like I'm tearing up just thinking about it. But Olivia, thank you. Thank you so much for writing this book. Thank you so much for making that fanfic reference in this book. And thank you for acknowledging the fact that I was the first person to catch it. I will never let that down. So yeah, Alone with You in the Ether. Again, I don't want to spoil too much about it, but if you're looking for a real raw depiction of love, then definitely check this out. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So the next book that I read in 2022 was actually my first 5-star read, and I was fully expecting to give it 5 stars. And that book was The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. Yes, the book where Bridgerton Season 2 is based on. I absolutely love this book, and I am not ashamed of it. I gave this 5 stars because of the dialogue, the wit, the humor, the enemies to lovers tension. You know, I'm all about that. And if you love enemies to lovers as well, I highly recommend that you pick up The Viscount Who Loved Me. If you enjoyed season 2 of Bridgerton, which I super loved, then please get a copy of this book. I think it was so fun. It was so entertaining, and I flagged so many lines. I fully enjoyed this. I think that Anthony Bridgerton really came into his own in this book. I think that Catherine Sheffield, who is Kate Sharma in the Netflix series, was such a great character and a great compliment to Anthony Bridgerton, and how they adapted it on Netflix was absolutely amazing. Though there were some parts in the book that weren't in the show that made me pretty sad, because some of the scenes here were really great, like the library scene, but at least we have both. Alright, so I highly recommend. I totally enjoyed this, and again, I am not ashamed of it. I tabbed so many scenes here that made me laugh out loud. If you know me, one of the reasons why I love Enemies to Lovers is the banter, and whew, the banter in this book was so good, and the humor was also very spot on. Like, I just enjoyed it. Again, banter, A+, 5 stars, not ashamed of it. So the next book that I read was a cute little fun read, and it brought me back to those days in high school where I would just drown myself in One Direction fanfiction. And if you are a K-pop fangirl, then I highly recommend that you read this book just for fun. It's called XOXO by aaaahh. And this cover is so pretty. Honestly, one of the prettiest books that I own. And it's really nice. I got like a hardcover edition, and isn't that so pretty? So this book was super cute. It definitely reminded me of all the fan fiction that I used to read, like about Harry Styles and One Direction and all that stuff. And this follows, you know, your standard fan fiction formula wherein girl meets guy and girl doesn't know who the guy is, and the guy turns out to be like a huge superstar, and he likes her because she wasn't like in his face about it. And though it's super predictable and again very formulaic, I think that it was such a cute read. So if you're looking for a very light read, very low stakes but still enjoyable and very cute, then I wouldn't stray away from this. And again, if you want to be transported back to like high school, reading all those self-insert your name fan fiction like with Harry Styles or One Direction, whoever it is that you read fanfics for, then definitely pick up XOXO by aaaahh. It's not my favorite book of 2022, but it definitely served its purpose when I read it. So moving on to the next book, we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. And this is the second book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. And this is just another set of stories focused around the same cafe. So if you're not familiar with the first book, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, it answers the question, if you could travel back in time, who would you visit and what would you say? So in the second book, it picks up where we left off from the first book. And we are met with the same cast of characters, but this time with different stories and different visitors. And personally, I prefer the stories from the first book, but that doesn't mean I didn't like this one. I was just hit more in the feels in the first book. Like, I cried reading the first book. This one I didn't really cry as much, but I think it was still super meaningful, and I really love that prompt. Like, if you could travel back in time and talk to anyone, who would it be and what would you say? So if you like that prompt, then definitely pick up the second book. I have a copy of the third book and I'm super excited to read it this year. But yeah, Toshikazu Kawaguchi's Before the Coffee Gets Cold series has been super popular and it's blown up a lot. So definitely pick up a copy if you like time travel and if you like that sentimental feeling and that warm and cozy feeling. And I had a really great time reading this, and if you like those things, then you will too. Okay, so we're moving on to the next book, and I'm so excited to talk about this because the show is coming up real soon on Amazon Prime, and it's Daisy Jones and the Six by my favorite author of all time, Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am so excited for the show. Like, from the trailer, it's just so exciting, and just hearing the songs coming to life, I got major goosebumps. Sam Claflin in book to movie, book to screen adaptations never misses, so I'm really excited about that. But yes, I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid in 2022. If I'm being completely honest, I was super hesitant and a bit nervous coming into reading this book because I was scared that I wouldn't like it. And it's because of the writing style. So with unconventional writing styles, I am, a bit hesitant to dive into it because it's either a hit or miss for me. So back in high school, I read Love, Rosie by Cecilia Ahern. And the writing style was in the form of emails. And I was not into it. Like, I wasn't invested, I wasn't attached, but like the movie adaptation like did it way more justice. Last year in 2021, I read This Is How You Lose the Time War, wherein the story was told through letters. So it was like an epistolary novel. And it was good. So I feel like it's just a matter of how the story is told. I'm really sorry. This is no shade to Cecilia Ahern, but just to, you know, to demonstrate my point. So for Daisy Jones and the Six, Taylor Jenkins Reid uses the interview style. So that's how she tells the story. Like, the entire story is told through an interview. And that scared me because, again, it's unconventional. It's not something that I'm used to. I'm used to consuming traditional storytelling content. But my mistake for ever doubting Taylor Jenkins Reid, because she knocked this out of the park. She was able to tell such a gripping and timeless story in the form of an interview. Like, that still blows my mind to this day. And I will never again doubt Taylor Jenkins Reid and her writing prowess, because this was super challenging, I'm sure, to be able to execute such great storytelling in an unconventional, non-traditional way. I'm just really in awe of Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I feel like she is one of the best authors of this generation, and I'm so happy to be living in the same era as this talented woman. It centers around rock and roll in the 60s, and we have Daisy Jones and the Six and other people involved in this band, and the lines in this book are so great. If I may read a line. Ooh, this is a good one. Life is about who is holding your hand, and I think whose hand you commit the holding. And it's just full of drama, full of friendship dynamics, band dynamics, family drama, and even personal drama. It's so explosive, and it's everything you would think a band memoir would be. It's not my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid novel though, if I may be honest, but I appreciate the art and I appreciate the writing and all the thought that was put into this book. And I cannot wait for the show to come out, and I can't wait to hear these songs played like in actuality. And I bet you Daisy Jones and the Six, this fictional band, is gonna be part of my Spotify Wrapped in 2023. Like, I'm already predicting it. And again, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid is a definite hard hitter, as all of her books are. And if you still have time, definitely pick this up and read it as fast as you can in time for March 6th when the series comes out on Amazon Prime. Wow, that sounded like an ad. It's not an ad. So for the next book that I read, I know that this book has been making serious waves online, and I have a lot of feelings towards this book. And I guess I just want to preface this and say that please, please, please proceed with caution if you have plans of reading this book and other books by this author. Actually, I have only ever read one other book from this author, but for this book specifically, since I read it, I have some stuff to say. And the main thing that I want to drive across and get across is, if you plan on reading this book, please read up on all of the content warnings, all the trigger warnings, and just proceed with caution. Because for me, I went in fully aware of what I was getting myself into, and I was still pretty bothered by what I read. I guess it's just how I wanna like intro this book. But yeah, the next book that I read after Daisy Jones and the Six was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And this book made me feel so much, mainly frustration. And if you can see here by the number of red tabs, your girl was stressed. I would like tab it pink if there was a red flag that I spotted, and I spotted so many, and I would furiously write on the margins, like what I thought, what I felt. It is not an easy read. It is not a romance. I'm sorry. I don't know who is labeling this as a romance. It's not. I know that there's a really tiny portion wherein it is a romance, but as a whole, it's not, and I don't think it should be marketed as such. I don't think it's a chick lit. I feel like this book should be handled with so much care and so much caution. It talks about this girl, Lily Bloom, who is a go-getter. She has dreams, she has goals, and she meets this guy. And you know, the relationship starts really well, but then he starts to domestically abuse her. I don't think this book is for everyone, and I don't think this should be marketed for everyone. And again, I don't think this should be marketed as a romance because it's not. This is also being turned into a movie starring Blake Lively, and I was talking about it with my friends, and we're really grateful that it's an older woman playing this role, because I do not want younger girls romanticizing these types of relationships because they see themselves in a younger actress. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover was a book that I read in 2022. Am I glad that I read it? Yes. And again, I will say this for the 100th time. Please, please, please proceed with caution and know what you're getting yourself into if you decide to read this book. Moving on to much lighter matters, I read The Summer I Turned Pretty in 2022. I know, I am so late to the train. I did not read this when this came out when I was in high school. I read To All the Boys I've Loved Before. This was everyone's bread and butter back in the day. If it wasn't The Hunger Games, it was The Summer I Turned Pretty, and unfortunately I did not hop on that bandwagon. But I read it in preparation for the Amazon show, which ironically I have yet to watch. Again, life just got too busy. Busy enough that I was not able to watch the show. But I heard nothing but great things about the show. People were saying that the adaptation was very modern, but at the same time true to the source material. And my thoughts on The Summer I Turned Pretty, it's a product of its time. And I'm so glad that the show, according to my friends, is a lot more modern, because there are some parts of the book that, you know, like reading it now as a 25-year-old kind of made me cringe and kind of reminded me of a less mature time in all of our lives. This was a fun read. Like, I have no regrets reading this book in preparation for the show that I have yet to watch. But yeah, it was fun. It was cute. It's your stereotypical standard love triangle plot, which I just cringe whenever I read stuff like that, but again, a product of its time. Reminisce with me on the fun days of being a teenager and having two boys fall in love with you, which isn't relatable because wow. Moving on to the next book, and this was also a 5-star read, and this is the Emily Henry redemption arc. Okay, coming from the train wreck that was People We Meet on Vacation, at least for me personally, don't get mad, she came back, and it was a great comeback. Book Lovers by Emily Henry was one of my favorite books of 2022. I absolutely devoured this book. I enjoyed every single chapter, every single page. I thought that this was wonderfully paced, and I absolutely loved the story. So Book Lovers follows Nora, who is a cutthroat literary agent. So she works in the publishing industry, and she is a career-driven woman. She is strong, she is independent, but she isn't, you know, the luckiest when it comes to love. And she's always wondered if there was something wrong with her, but she never really wanted to change herself for any man. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why I really like this book. Just the romance in this book was also so good. Again, this is kind of like an enemies to lovers trope book, so you know that I gravitate towards those and I always love those. And again, Emily Henry never misses with her enemies to lovers books. She did the same with Beach Read, and that was an instant hit for me. And again with Book Lovers. The love interest in this book, oh my gosh, he is so great. What's his name? Charlie. Okay, Charlie, the love interest. Faith in humanity restored. Honestly, he's probably one of the best fictional love interests. Okay, so I don't want to spoil anything, but you just gotta trust me. Like, read this book and you'll understand why I love Charlie Lastra so much. He is so understanding, he is so supportive, and just everything you want as a career-driven girly. Like, he is the blueprint for career-driven girlies who are looking for love. I also really like the family aspect of this book. I think the sister relationship between Nora and her sister was written really well. There were a lot of tear-jerking moments in this book and I really enjoyed it. So if you're out there looking for a book on enemies to lovers romance with great banter, an amazing love interest, and family dynamics, specifically sister dynamics, if you're also a career-driven, headstrong girly like myself and Nora, then definitely pick this book up because I feel like you'll see yourself in Nora, like maybe not completely, but just like a little bit. And I feel like that really helped me get into like reading this book and really enjoying it because I could, you know, see myself in Nora and I could relate. And yeah, I super duper love this and I think you will too. Okay, we're down to our last 3 books. Oh my gosh, it's getting pretty late at night and I'm feeling very loopy, so please bear with me. So this next book that I'm going to be talking about was recommended to me by one of my friends, China. Hi China, if you're watching this, thank you so much for recommending this book. I saw her talk about it on her Instagram and I was, you know, in the middle of my cult documentary binge on Netflix. Like, I was super into cult documentaries at the time, so this recommendation was super timely. And that book is Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism by Amanda Montell. And this was one of my favorite reads, again, of 2022. I believe I gave this book 5 stars? Yes, 5 stars. I'm looking at my notes right now. Cultish was such a fun read. If you know me, I don't really gravitate towards non-fiction books. Like, I'm 100% like a fiction book girly. But there was just something about this and I feel like it came at the right time because, like I said, I was super into cult documentaries on Netflix. I was watching Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey at the time and other documentaries, and I was so invested and I really wanted to kind of learn more. So what made Cultish by Amanda Montell so interesting to read was that she doesn't just talk about cults like Scientology and other religious traditional cults, but she also talks about cults and cult culture in the modern day setting and in modern day society. And you will not believe how ingrained cult culture is. Like, it's crazy. Like, you'll hear it in everyday conversations, in ads. You know, you're just not super aware until it's being pointed out that, hey, that's kind of like cultish behavior. And it's interesting. So if you're interested in cults, not in joining one, okay? Cults are scary. Like, I am still to this day super afraid that it could happen to like someone close to me or someone that I love or even myself. Cults are scary, okay? So please be wary. And I feel like that's what this book is trying to do. It helps you become aware of cultish behavior, cultish sayings or things like this. So super interesting. Oh, and before I forget, like another thing that I super duper loved about this book was the focus on language. I am such a huge word nerd. Like, I love words and learning where they come from and just the impact of language. This focuses on it. So as you can see in the title, it says Cultish, the language of fanaticism. So it really does like a deep dive on how language influences people and how powerful words can be, and how cults and cult leaders take advantage of the power of language and words. So again, very interesting, very eye-opening, and if you're interested in learning more about cults, not about joining them, okay? Definitely pick this up. I think it's very much worth your time. And yeah, Cultish by Amanda Montell, a must-read, I believe. Okay, moving on to my favorite read of the year. This takes the #1 spot in my 2022 reading list. Possibly one of my favorite books of all time, if not my favorite book of all time. I remember when I told people this, they were shocked. They were shocked because they know how much I love my previous #1. That previous #1 being Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So when people learned that Carrie Soto is back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, dethroned the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, everyone was shaking. Everyone was so shocked. Like, you have no idea how many messages I got when I posted my review saying that this was the one to dethrone the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Girl, people were so scandalized. And I was too, until I made peace with the fact that this is the best book that Taylor Jenkins Reid has ever written so far, in my opinion. Carrie Soto is back is Taylor Jenkins Reid at her best form. I am not kidding you. When I read this, I honestly wasn't thinking that it would dethrone Evelyn. But there was a moment while reading this book where it just all clicked. And I was like, damn. This is Taylor Jenkins Reid's best book. And honestly, I think that's such a big claim, but I'm gonna claim it. And I talked about this with my friend Noelle, and she was in agreement with me that this is probably the best Taylor Jenkins Reid book in the Evelyn Hugo cinematic universe. And I'm gonna try my best to put into words as to why I think that this is the best Taylor Jenkins Reid book ever, and why it's my favorite book of all time. And I think it has a lot to do with characterization and how Taylor Jenkins Reid was able to craft such a beautiful character arc for our main girl, Carrie Soto. So we meet Carrie Soto, who is the best tennis player of her time. She has broken all the records, has won all the trophies, so she's in retirement. So when she catches wind that her records are close to being broken by an up-and-coming tennis player, she suddenly gets out of retirement and is so determined to get back on the court. So Carrie Soto is not likable at all. Like, right off the bat, she is a bitch. And she makes sure that everybody knows that. That's her reputation. She has been known as a mean girl, will do anything to win, and she is just ruthless and relentless, and she is not loved for it. Unlike other players who are lauded for being prim, proper, and all that stuff. And the interesting thing with Carrie Soto is that ever since she was young, she was trained by her father, who was also a very well-respected tennis player. And I really think that's it. Like, the dynamic between father and daughter, and the sheer determination that you feel from Carrie, like every single chapter, every single page. And again, how Taylor Jenkins Reid is able to write such an intense play-by-play tennis match. Like, the tennis matches that she writes here, I honestly don't understand how it's able to evoke such intense feelings from me. Like, I'd be on the edge of my seat. Well, I was reading on my bed, but still, like, my heart would be racing. I don't know how Taylor Jenkins Reid does it, but she does it in such a great way. And just again, the characterization. I feel like this is Taylor Jenkins Reid's best work in terms of characterization. And if you know me, I am all for character building. I'm all for character arcs. I just have nothing but huge respect for Taylor Jenkins Reid, but that's no surprise. Carrie Soto is back. I think is one of her best work, if not the best, out of her Evelyn Hugo cinematic universe. And I just love a good comeback story. I think that's the thing here. I just loved rooting for the underdog. And Carrie Soto, again, is not a likable character, but just her journey from the start of the book to the end, my heart is so deeply connected to Carrie and her father and Beau. Honestly, Beau, one of the best male characters that Taylor Jenkins Reid has ever written. Apart from Harry. Harry will always have a special place in my heart, but Beau is on another level. I think it's just a great story of determination and ambition and celebrating those around you that helped you get to where you are today. It's just such a good book. Like, guys, you have to trust me. Like, I know it's a bit slow at the start. Like, there are some people that were telling me, oh, like, I think it's a bit slow at the start. Believe me, it picks up like a good tennis game. Just stick around for the completion of the character arc. Stick around for all the great lines, the successes and failures, and just be there. Be there for the ride, and I promise you it'll be well worth it. Carrie Soto is back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, my favorite book of 2022 and possibly of all time. I highly recommend that you get it. I'll leave the link to the book down below. Be sure to get yourself a copy. And yeah, and last but not least, the final book that I read in 2022. I do not have a physical copy of it. I read it on my Kindle, and it's called See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And if you are a follower of this channel, you would know that I love Rachel Lynn Solomon. One of my favorite books of hers is called Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, and it's one of my favorite enemies to lovers stories ever. See You Yesterday is more of a time loop book, and personally, I don't really gravitate towards time loop stories because they tend to be redundant. Obviously, because it's a time loop, so like the same day repeats itself over and over. But surprisingly with this one, I really enjoyed it because of the characters. I think it was a great take on a time loop story, and I think Rachel did a really great job in making sure it wasn't super redundant and that new things would happen every time. And I thought that the story had so much heart in it, and the banter between the main characters was so fun. Would I call it an enemies to lovers book? Not really. It's not as good as Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, if I will be completely honest. So if you have like a standard, so I would put Today, Tonight, Tomorrow like at the top. But See You Yesterday was still very enjoyable and a very cute read. I actually read it when I went to Sydney to visit my brother. I read it while I was there. So if you're on the lookout for a really good time loop story, one that is dynamic and one that's interesting and not redundant, then I definitely recommend See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And there we have it. Those were all the books that I read in 2022. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I am so appreciative of every single person that has ever watched my video, or if you've ever read a book because of my recommendation. It means the absolute world to me. I'll be sure to leave the links to all the books that I talked about in the description box down below, so be sure to check those out. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!